Amaka Okoye had come to Seoul with nothing but a suitcase, a contract offer, and a heart full of hope. After fleeing the chaotic noise of Lagos, family expectations, heartbreak, and joblessness, she believed South Korea would offer structure, maybe even peace. But 2 weeks into her new job as a personal assistant to a powerful fashion executive, that hope shattered. A misunderstanding, fueled by language barriers and her boss's fragile ego, cost her the job. No severance, no apology, just a cold dismissal and a mounting pile of unpaid bills in a city where she barely knew anyone. One evening, while working a temp gig cleaning at a makeup showroom, she overheard 2 stylists whispering about a Han River ball, an elite, invite-only masquerade party held in a private estate overlooking the water. Amaka didn't know what shocked her more, that the rich paid people to attend just to keep the mood fun, or that some girls walked away with millions of won in gifts and cash. That night, she stared at her eviction notice for a long time before whispering. Just one night? With her last savings, she rented a glittering silver dress and a lace mask. She slicked her curls into a bun, powdered her face, and promised herself this wasn't who she was, just who she had to be to survive. Meanwhile, across the city, Jihoon Kim, the cold, elusive heir to Kim Industries, sat bored in the back seat of a black sedan. His friends, already tipsy, shoved a gold mask into his hands and insisted he attend. "Live a little, Jihoon," they said. He didn't care for crowds or chaos. But that night, everything changed. Welcome to Moonlit Stories, where moonlight meets myth. Love timeless tales? Then hit like, subscribe, and join the circle. Every story begins with you. Amaka didn't remember much after the champagne, and laughter blurred into the scent of lavender and candlelight. Just a hallway, a deep voice, the weight of his hand in hers, and the shimmer of a golden mask. She woke up alone in a luxurious guest room with velvet curtains and unfamiliar silence. No name, no number, only the faint memory of his calm eyes and the gold mask he left on the nightstand. Heart racing, she gathered her things and slipped out unnoticed. She told herself it was a mistake, that she'd never speak of it again, but life had other plans. 6 weeks later, Amaka stood in the cramped bathroom of her shared Goshawan student boarding house, staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. "God, no!" Seoul's winter had begun to bite. The radiator was broken, and her room barely held enough heat to fight the chill creeping through the thin walls. Her account balance was in the double digits, and her visa renewal depended on finding new work, fast. But all she could do was sit on the bathroom floor, clutching her stomach. Months passed. She tried to return home to Lagos, but shame kept her rooted. How could she face her family with no job and a growing belly? They had sent her abroad to become a success story, not a statistic. She hid from the world, did odd jobs when she could, cleaned apartments, served drinks. The child inside her became her only source of joy and fear. 2 years later, the world shifted again. She gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Zachora and Zara. Sharp-eyed, mischievous, beautiful. Now, they were almost 4. Amaka juggled jobs, carried them on her back, whispered fairy tales in a language that wasn't hers. They laughed often and asked one question more than any other. "Mommy, where is our daddy?" She never had an answer. Only a memory of that night and a gold mask. The glass tower of Jihoon Kim Holdings stood like a monument in central Seoul, sleek, cold, untouchable. Its chrome exterior mirrored the sky, and its lobby buzzed with assistants in heels, the scent of designer cologne, and the quiet fear of hierarchy. Amaka adjusted her second-hand blazer and clutched her file of credentials. She'd applied for a temporary secretary role through a freelance agency. The pay wasn't glamorous, but steady, something she desperately needed. She stepped in and told herself, stay invisible. Do the work. Don't draw attention. But that promise shattered the moment she entered the executive floor. Jihoon Kim sat at the far end of a polished boardroom, tall and poised in a charcoal suit. His hair swept back, jaw tight, and eyes unreadable. People moved like shadows around him, afraid to speak unless spoken to. Amaka bowed politely, keeping her eyes down. Yet when their eyes met briefly, something flickered, something unsettling. He didn't say a word, just stared a second too long. Amaka dismissed it, But Jihoon did not. There was something about the cadence of her voice, the tilt of her head, the slight frown she wore when concentrating. It tugged at him. A memory. No. He didn't have time for distractions. Her first week was rough. She was too cheerful. Too foreign. Her accent made people raise eyebrows. Her clothes weren't trendy enough. And she didn't laugh at the sarcastic jokes the other staff made about being lucky to breathe the same air as the CEO. One afternoon, during a tense meeting, a senior manager mocked her input about digital translations. "She's not even Korean," the man scoffed. Maybe she thought this was a K-drama audition. Laughter echoed, until Jihoon's voice cut through it like steel. "That's enough." Silence fell. Jihoon's expression didn't change, but his voice chilled the air. If she doesn't belong here, then neither do cowards who attack women instead of contributing solutions. Amaka blinked, grateful and afraid, because now he had noticed her. It was supposed to be just another office day, but when the babysitter canceled last minute and Amaka had no one to turn to, she faced a choice: risk her job or bring the twins to work. She chose survival. Wrapped in matching jackets, Sakura and Zara trailed beside her quietly as she whispered sternly, "You have to stay in the break room. No noise. No wandering. Understand?" They nodded, wide-eyed and curious. She gave them her phone with cartoons playing, handed them crackers, and kissed their foreheads before rushing off to the executive floor. But fate wasn't finished with her. Jihoon Kim, taking his coffee break early, entered the break room and paused. Two small children looked up at him. The boy blinked. The girl offered a bright, toothy smile. "Annyeonghaseyo," she said sweetly. Jihoon tilted his head, stunned. Something in their faces, the shape of their eyes, the fullness of their lips. Something pulled at him. Sakura asked shyly, "Are you our mommy's boss?" Jihoon nodded slowly. Before he could ask more, Amaka burst in, breathless. Her face turned pale when she saw him. I can explain," she said quickly. "They're not mine. I mean, they are, but they're not." Jihoon raised an eyebrow. "They're my sister's kids," she blurted. "She's sick. In a coma. I'm just watching over them until she gets better. Their dad's long gone." It was the lie that saved her job, but it was also the moment that cracked something open. Jihoon didn't speak. He only gave a tight nod and left the room. But from that day forward, something shifted. He began to observe Amaka more closely, not out of suspicion, but out of curiosity. He saw how the children clung to her like roots to soil. He saw how she whispered into their ears in Yoruba, and they giggled like wind chimes. He noticed how she looked over her shoulder, always waiting for something, or someone, to take it all away. And most of all, he couldn't shake that strange, gnawing feeling. Those weren't her niece and nephew. They were hers. A week after the break room incident, Jihoon Kim sat in his grandfather's hospital room, staring at the monitors more than the old man himself. Chairman Dae Kim, founder of the Kim Empire, had built everything from nothing. But now, even his voice was tired. "I want to see you married before I die," the old man said, eyes sharp despite the oxygen mask. A strong woman. A real partner. Not just a name on paper. Jihoon gave a tight smile, but his jaw clenched. That same week, internal board members began whispering, questioning Jihoon's personal life, his unmarried status, his solitary habits. Rumors of instability. And vultures circled, waiting for cracks in leadership. The pressure to present a stable, family-friendly image was closing in. So Jihoon made a choice. He called Amaka into his office. "You need money," he said bluntly. "And I need a solution." Her heart dropped. "I want us to fake an engagement," he continued. "Publicly. It'll calm the board, satisfy my grandfather, and get everyone off my back. In return, I'll assist with your sister's medical bills." Amaka froze. She wasn't stupid. She knew this was her lifeline. Bills were mounting. Babysitting jobs weren't cutting it. One wrong move, and she'd be out on the street with 2 children. But there was one problem. "I'll do it," she said finally, on one condition. His eyes narrowed. "You can never ask about the twins. They're not part of this deal." A pause. Then he nodded. Agreed. And just like that, a lie became their shield. Photos were staged. An announcement was made. Amaka was given a wardrobe, a makeover, and a role. the mysterious Nigerian beauty who captured Korea's most eligible bachelor. But rehearsing love was harder than she imagined. The way Jihoon looked at her during pretend dates felt too real. The warmth of his hand on hers, the stillness in his presence. Amaka found herself laughing more than she should, lingering longer than she planned. And when he looked into her eyes like he wanted to memorize them, she forgot it was all fake. Or was it? For a while, everything held together. The public saw perfection. Jihoon and Amaka, hand in hand at charity galas, whispering like newlyweds over candlelit dinners. The tabloids called her Seoul Cinderella. The board was silenced. Chairman Dae Kim smiled more. And Jihoon found comfort in Amaka's quiet strength. He watched her care for the twins like a lioness. He admired the way she never asked for more than what was given, but always gave everything she had. Their arrangement was working. Until Femi Alabi walked into the restaurant. It was a soft-lit evening. One of their fake couple nights. Jihoon had reserved the rooftop of a private Italian bistro in Gangnam. Soft jazz played. Amaka wore a deep emerald gown. Even she felt like she belonged in the fantasy. Then Femi's voice cut through the music. Well, Amaka. Still pretending to be someone you're not. Her smile vanished. Jihoon's expression darkened as the tall Nigerian man approached, reeking of pride and cheap aftershave. Femi sneered. You're parading around with a CEO now? After ghosting your family, hiding those children. Stop, Amaka hissed. Children out of wedlock, Amaka? Really? He laughed, loud and cruel. Does he even know? Jihoon stood. The air thickened. You clearly don't know her anymore, Jihoon said coldly. Or you never did. His voice dropped an octave. And if you speak to her like that again, I'll make sure your visa expires before your sentence ends. Femi froze. Jihoon took Amaka's hand, pulled her close, and led her away without another word. In the car, she sat silent, trembling. Jihoon didn't press. He didn't question. He simply turned to her, eyes soft for the first time. I don't care what your past looks like, he said. But I care how people treat you now. She didn't reply, but something cracked open in her chest. Because for the first time in 6 years, someone had defended her. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. A few days later, Sakura developed a cough that wouldn't go away. Amaka, anxious and sleep-deprived, rushed him to the nearest hospital. Zara came along, clinging to her side as always. The hospital asked for a parent's name on the admission slip. Without thinking, Amaka scribbled, Amaka Okoye, mother. She didn't notice the pair of familiar faces passing behind the reception desk. Yewanda Kim, Jihoon's ex-fiancée, and Jihoon's mother, Madam Sohee Kim. Their eyes scanned the log, then froze. Sakura Kim, age 4. Mother, Amaka Okoye. There was no sister. No coma. Just the truth, bleeding quietly through paper and ink. That evening, Jihoon returned home to find Yewanda waiting in his private office. She dropped the hospital record on his desk. I suggest you ask your fiancé who she really is. Then she left. Jihoon didn't speak, didn't react. But inside, the walls began to quake. He summoned Amaka the next morning. She entered the office slowly, clutching her handbag like a lifeline. She already knew. Her entire body trembled. You lied to me, Jihoon said, voice low and cold. I had to, she whispered. He stood, pacing. Sakura, Zara, are they? She nodded. Their father. I met him 6 years ago at a masquerade ball. I never saw his face. He wore a golden mask. Jihoon's blood ran cold. I was at that ball, he said slowly. My friends forced me to wear a gold mask. I remember a girl in silver. Coconut scent. Laughter. But no name. They locked eyes. Then silence. And then a demand. DNA test, he said. She nodded. No words left. The results came in days later. Jihoon sat alone as he read the paper. Positive. 99.9%. His hands shook. Not with rage, but with guilt. 6 years, and she had carried it alone. When Amaka entered, he asked one question. Why didn't you tell me? Tears welled. Because I didn't know it was you. And when I started to suspect, it was too late. The silence between them shattered, and Amaka walked away. The house felt colder without her. Jihoon sat in silence, the DNA report still trembling in his hand. His grandfather's voice echoed in his mind. A real man doesn't run from truth. He stands in it. And this truth hit harder than any corporate scandal. He was a father, not just of any children, but of Zachora and Zara, the bright-eyed twins who had mirrored him from the start. That evening, Jihoon stormed into the Kim family estate. Yewanda and Madam So-hee were in the lounge, sipping tea like nothing had happened. Without a word, Jihoon dropped the DNA papers on the table. "You didn't just humiliate the woman I love," he said. "You humiliated your own blood." His mother scoffed. "Love? Jihoon, she trapped you. She carried your grandchildren alone for years," he snapped, "while you judged her from marble floors and magazine covers." Yewanda looked away. Chairman Dae Kim, who had remained silent until now, let out a pained sigh. "Is it true?" he asked softly. Jihoon nodded. "Yes, Halabiaji. And I won't lose them." Meanwhile, Amaka stood outside her rundown apartment in Dongdaemun, trying to pack the children's clothes into a nylon bag. Femi stood nearby, sneering. "You really thought you'd end up with him? A CEO. You'll always be a girl from the ghetto." His voice grew louder. "You're a disgrace, Amaka. And those kids, they're mistakes." That's when a black SUV screeched to a halt. Jihoon stepped out, eyes blazing. He didn't hesitate. One punch. Femi stumbled back, clutching his jaw. Jihoon turned to Amaka, shielding her and the twins. "You're not alone anymore," he said, voice shaking. "Come home." That night, back in Jihoon's penthouse, laughter returned. The twins danced on the marble floors. Amaka smiled through tears. Jihoon sat at the table, watching them all like a man who'd found something he never knew he needed. And over breakfast the next morning, as sunlight poured through the windows, he stood, took her hand, and asked, softly, "Will you marry me? Not out of duty, but love." For the first time in years, Amaka Okoye didn't feel like she was running. Not from shame, not from the past, not from herself. She stood barefoot in the rooftop garden of Kim Alowa Residences, her twins chasing butterflies between stone lanterns and hanging lights. Seoul's skyline glittered beneath them, but nothing sparkled brighter than her heart. Jihoon Kim watched from a few feet away, dressed not in a suit, but in soft linen, barefoot like her. There was no mask this time, no boardroom, no performance, only them. He stepped closer, took her hand, and knelt, not as a CEO, not as Korea's most eligible bachelor, but as a man who had finally come home. "I failed you once," he said, voice steady. "Let me spend the rest of my life making it right." Amaka blinked back tears. The children stood nearby, holding hands, eyes wide with hope. "I'm not perfect," Jihoon added, "but I will never let you carry anything alone again." Zara whispered, "Say yes, Mommy." Zachora grinned, "So we can have cake." Laughter broke through the tears. Amaka nodded, smiling through it all. "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." The wedding wasn't a palace event. No media frenzy. No red carpet. Just an intimate garden ceremony by the Han River. Cherry blossoms swayed. Aunties flew in from Lagos. Chairman Dae Kim, now retired, held Zachora on his lap and let her braid his silver hair. Even Madam So-hee showed up in a soft blue hanbok, humbled, watching the way her son looked at his bride, like every broken piece of his past had finally clicked into place. That night, as the twins danced barefoot under lanterns, Amaka pulled Jihoon aside. "Remember the ball?" He nodded. No names, no faces, just laughter and a gold mask. Jihoon smiled. "I don't need a mask anymore." She leaned into him. "Neither do I." And so, under Seoul's quiet stars, the girl who lost everything and the man who never thought he deserved love finally found both. Together. And that is how love rewrote a story that was once defined by shame, lies, and silence. From a single night behind golden masks to a lifetime of second chances, Amaka and Jihoon reminded us that truth, though painful, is the foundation of real love. In the end, it wasn't status, wealth, or appearances that mattered, but who showed up, who protected, who stayed, and who chose to heal instead of hide. The lesson? You are not your past. You are the choices you make today, especially when they're made in love, not fear. To every single parent, every outsider, every misunderstood soul. You are worthy of a new beginning. If this story touched you, even for a moment, please like this video, drop a comment with your favorite scene, and tell us, would you have forgiven Jihoon? Or was Amaka too forgiving? Let's talk about it in the comments. And hey, if you love stories with meaning, drama, and redemption, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Because more unforgettable journeys are coming your way, right here on the Judge Stories. Until next time, stay brave, stay true, and never stop believing in second chances.